No place for losers. That was the full text. No greeting, no punctuation, just 5 words sent from my Aunt Meredith the moment the reunion invite went live. I stared at it for a long time, rereading it, until the words blurred. I hadn't spoken to her in years, not since she told me at my mother's funeral. No less that some people just don't rebound. I was 25 then. I'm 35 now, and apparently still a loser. The Monroe family reunion happens every 5 years like clockwork. My cousins compete for who can host the most extravagant private islands. Aspen Chalets, a yacht off Santorini. This year they'd chosen a towering luxury retreat in downtown Atlanta, the Aria Towers known for glass-clad suites and a Michelin star chef flown in monthly. They called it elegance. I called it home, because I built it. Not metaphorically, not emotionally, literally. The deed, the land, the blueprint, the signature on every major design approval, they're mine. It's one of 5 towers I own under Monroe Collective, my wellness hospitality brand based out of Seattle. My name isn't on the billboard, but it is in the contract. And yet to my family, I'm still the girl who dropped out of law school to do yoga retreats with rich divorcees. I was going to ignore the reunion, I really was. I've made peace with the silence, but something about those 5 words flipped a switch. It wasn't rage, it was something quieter, colder. A voice that said, "Let them come, let them eat from my table and not know who said it. And when they ask for the owner, I'll be waiting." Growing up, a Monroe meant knowing how to answer 3 questions by the time you could tie your own shoes. What school, what profession, what legacy? There were no wrong answers, just one right one, Ivy League something ending in ist or ties tor, and nothing less than generational impact. My cousin Daniel is a cardiothoracic surgeon with 2 patents. Ava runs a hedge fund in Manhattan and sits on 3 philanthropic boards. My younger brother Chase is a political consultant who practically lives on CNN. Me, I was the kid who got straight A's until I dared to ask, do we measure people by what they fix? Or how they make others feel? Father didn't laugh. He just folded the newspaper tighter and muttered, we measure them by how little they embarrass the family name. From the outside, we looked perfect. Kennedy smiles, vineyard vines, wardrobes, Christmas cards curated like campaign ads. But under the polish was pressure. Endless bone-deep pressure. You succeeded or you vanished. You performed or you became the punchline. At first I tried. I followed the script. Dual degree from Emory and Columbia Law, summer internships at top firms, the whole pedigree parade. But it felt like wearing someone else's skin. I smiled in group photos and screamed into my pillow at night. My downfall began when I deferred my final year to travel with a wellness startup. I saw how people softened when you gave them space to breathe. I watched broken professionals rebuild in sunlight and silence. I learned how hospitality could be healing. When I told my family I wasn't going back, the silence at the dinner table was biblical. My father looked at me like I'd spat in the communion wine. This family doesn't take sabbaticals, my Aunt Meredith snapped. We don't do spas. We own the buildings they're in. I could have told her I would own one someday. 5 actually, but I didn't, not then. They think success is a resume. I think it's a ripple. They chase applause. I chase impact. They measure legacy by how loudly people speak your name. I measure it by how deeply they remember the feeling of your presence. So no, I'm not on the Christmas card anymore. I'm not invited to weddings or baby showers. My mother still sends me mass-forwarded emails like I'm part of some BCC'd afterthought. And now they're coming to my building, to toast each other's greatness under chandeliers I picked, to sleep in beds I designed for people who carry quiet sadness. They don't know they're walking into my legacy. Not yet. I walked out of Columbia Law on a Tuesday afternoon with a half-packed duffel and a question no one had ever asked me. What if this isn't the life you want? It came from a guest speaker, not even a professor. A hospitality entrepreneur named Leora Haynes, who'd built eco-luxury resorts in places no one thought profitable. Her eyes scanned the lecture hall, paused on me, maybe saw something breaking. You can be brilliant, she'd said, but brilliance in the wrong life is still misery. That night I booked a one-way flight to Vancouver. No plan, no pitch deck. Just a hunch that I could build something softer than law and sharper than wellness retreats. Something that made people feel seen. My father called it a tantrum. Aunt Meredith called it self-sabotage. You'll regret this, she hissed. No real career starts with incense and a juice cleanse. They were wrong. My first job was at a sleep clinic meets spa hybrid that catered to burned-out tech execs. I wasn't running it. I was folding towels and taking notes. I watched. I listened. I learned how luxury wasn't about money, it was about memory. Tiny things, a lamp on a dimmer switch. Floor tiles warmed to the touch at 2 a.m. A barista who remembers your allergies without asking. 6 months in, I pitched an idea to the clinic owner. What if I asked the entire building worked like a nervous system? Lights that adjusted to mood, beds that responded to pressure, rooms that sensed stress and recalibrated ambiance. She smiled like I'd just invented oxygen. We can't afford that, she said, so I left. I moved to Seattle, rented a moldy studio above a kombucha bar, and worked every odd job that kept me near wellness or design. Assistant event planner, night receptionist, spa, concierge. Even interior staging for short-term rentals. I studied how people moved in spaces, and more importantly, how spaces moved them. At 28, I met Morgan Bryce, retired hotel magnate 62, recovering from a stroke and bored out of his mind. I was managing guest experience for a startup co-living tower he'd quietly funded. He called me into his penthouse one night, after I'd overhauled their check-in system with scent color and silence. You're wasted here, he said. You think like a designer, but move like a founder. I laughed. I have $280 in my checking account. He poured 2 glasses of Japanese whiskey and said, pitch me. 2 months later, I had seed funding, a team of 4, and a sketch of what would become the Aria Tower's multisensory wellness sanctuaries, disguised as hotels. No front desks, no uniform scripts. Every experience coded to emotional architecture. People called it idealistic. I called it necessary. I didn't build for status. I built for recovery, and I never once looked back. The reservation came through on a cloudy Thursday morning. I was on the rooftop garden of Aria Tower 1. Reviewing lavender installations for our summer scent profile, when my assistant Kieran jogged over with his tablet. Got a VIP block booking request, 60 rooms, full weekend event, ballroom catering, custom turn-down service. From a Meredith Wallace. I didn't flinch, not outwardly, just blinked slowly. Aunt Meredith hadn't used her maiden name in decades. Forward me the file, I said, keeping my voice even. Inside, I was already spiraling. There it was, Monroe Family Reunion, hosted by Theodore and Meredith Wallace. Event Title 5. Generations of Excellence, location Aria Towers, Atlanta. My building, my brand. My name hidden in legal layers they'd never bother to read. For a few long seconds, I couldn't breathe. After all the years of exile, the judgment, the eye rolls across white linen dinner tables, they'd chosen me. Or rather, they'd chosen what I built, thinking it belonged to someone else. Someone worthy. I opened the group email chain they'd attached for guest coordination. It was a who's who of generational narcissism. Cousin Ava, excited. I'll be bringing my stylist. Daniel, need gym access at 5 a.m., both days, please. My mother, requesting suite, away from elevator noise. My name not listed, not even BCC'd. 5 minutes later, a separate message buzzed my phone. It was from Aunt Meredith. Rachel, darling, I'm sending this privately to avoid awkwardness. The reunion is about celebrating the Monroe standard. Given your current lifestyle choices, we thought it best you sit this one out. No place for losers. I'm sure you understand. I stared at the screen until it dimmed. Then I laughed quietly at first, then loud enough that Kieran looked up from his corner. Everything okay, Rach? I nodded. Better than okay. The rest of the day passed in motion, confirming guest itineraries, reviewing catering options, choosing floral palettes for the event. They didn't know I was orchestrating. I added small touches, not to sabotage, just to watch. Aunt Meredith's suite would face the construction zone. The champagne would be vintage, but the one she hated. The ballroom lighting warmer than she liked. Tiny, elegant inconveniences. That night I walked the empty ballroom barefoot. The acoustics hummed. I touched the etched brass plaque at the entrance, the one no guest ever noticed, designed in silence, delivered in grace. RM, they'd walk right past it, and still not see me. But they would, soon. The reservation came through on a cloudy Thursday morning. I was on the rooftop garden of Aria Tower 1 reviewing lavender installations for our summer scent profile when my assistant Kieran jogged over with his tablet. Got a VIP block booking request, 60 rooms, full weekend, event ballroom catering custom, turned down service. From a Meredith Wallace. I didn't flinch, not outwardly, just blinked slowly. Aunt Meredith hadn't used her maiden name in decades. Forward me the file, I said, keeping my voice even. Inside I was already spiraling. There it was, Monroe Family Reunion, hosted by Theodore and Meredith Wallace. Event Title 5, Generations of Excellence location, Aria Towers, Atlanta. My building, my brand, my name hidden in legal layers they'd never bothered to read. For a few long seconds I couldn't breathe. After all the years of exile, the judgment, the eye rolls across white linen dinner tables. They'd chosen me, or rather they'd chosen what I built thinking it belonged to someone else, someone worthy. I opened the group email chain they'd attached for guest coordination. It was a who's who of generational narcissism, cousin Ava excited. I'll be bringing my stylist. Daniel need gym access at 5 a.m., both days please. My mother requesting suite away from elevator noise. My name not listed, not even BCC'd. 5 minutes later, a separate message buzzed my phone. It was from Aunt Meredith. Rachel, darling, I'm sending this privately to avoid awkwardness. The reunion is about celebrating the Monroe standard. Given your current lifestyle choices, we thought it best you sit this one out. No place for losers. I'm sure you understand. I stared at the screen until it dimmed. Then I laughed quietly at first, then loud enough that Kieran looked up from his corner. Everything okay, Rach? I nodded. Better than okay. The rest of the day passed in motion, confirming guest itineraries, reviewing catering options, choosing floral palettes for the event. They didn't know I was orchestrating. I added small touches, not to sabotage, just to watch. Aunt Meredith's suite would face the construction zone. The champagne would be vintage, but the one she hated. The ballroom lighting warmer than she liked. Tiny, elegant inconveniences. That night I walked the empty ballroom barefoot. The acoustics hummed. I touched the etched brass plaque at the entrance, the one no guest ever noticed, designed in silence, delivered in grace. RM, they'd walk right past it, and still not see me, but they would, soon. I didn't sleep that night. Not because of nerves, because of clarity. I'd spent 10 years perfecting emotional architecture for other people. Now I would design a moment for myself. A reveal measured not in volume but in precision. The Monroe family was arriving in 72 hours. The plan was simple: treat them like royalty. 2. Make no mistake. 3. Let the question come, who owns this for? 4. Answer only when they're already seated at my table. I called an internal meeting the next morning with Diana, the general manager of Aria Atlanta, and Ryan, head of guest experience. Neither of them knew I was a Monroe. That name meant nothing to them, only Rachel Monroe, the founder who walked barefoot through lobbies at 2 a.m., adjusting the scent profile. I'll be on site this weekend, I said. Personal reasons, discreet ones. They nodded, accustomed to my occasional shadow appearances. Expect difficult guests, I added, demanding, entitled. But under no circumstances should they feel disrespected. We do what we always do. Exceed expectations. Ryan raised an eyebrow. Even if they behave like garbage. Especially then, I said. Let them feel untouchable until they're not. Later that afternoon, Morgan Bryce called. He rarely did any more semi-retired and living in Lisbon, occasionally sending cryptic texts about vintage furniture and Vietnamese coffee. I saw the calendar note he said, skipping pleasantries. Aria Atlanta. Full floor buyout. You're flying down for it. I am. And the name on the reservation, he asked. I said nothing. You're going to make it a show. He sighed. You've earned the empire, Rachel. Don't stain it proving a point to people who already decided not to see you. This isn't about revenge, I said too quickly. Of course it is, he said. Gently, just ask yourself this. What's the difference between control and closure? The line went dead. That night, I wandered the suite reserved for Aunt Meredith and Uncle Theo. It was already prepared bottle of red from Tuscany, their favorite linen texture, the view of the skyline. They'd brag about to brunch guests. Nothing was wrong, everything was perfect, except the intent. Not to hurt, not even to teach, just to hold a mirror. Let them see exactly who I became when no one was looking. They arrived in waves. A town car every 10 minutes polished to mirror sheen. Luggage with gold initials, perfume clouds that lingered like accusations. I watched them from the control suite, a glass-walled observation room just above the lobby, designed for VIP security detail, and on rare days like this silent reckoning. Aunt Meredith was first. Wrapped in cream cashmere, she barked into her phone as two bellhops unloaded her Louis Vuitton cases. She'll want the North Suite, Diana murmured beside me. She'll get the one we assigned, I said. With the better view, she just doesn't know it yet. My mother came next, still immaculate, still distant. She gave the front desk a practiced smile, the one that didn't reach her eyes. Behind her, Chase, my younger brother, strode in with his usual swagger, phone glued to his ear. Yes, Senator, I'll make the brunch. Of course, family can wait. His voice floated up to where I stood unchanged after all these years. They moved through my lobby like they owned it, and they noticed everything except me. Downstairs staff moved with military grace. Personalized greetings, sparkling water at just the right temperature, luggage routed efficiently, scent cues adjusted depending on guest profile, fresh citrus for Ava, soft cedar for Daniel. Not one mistake. They always said I couldn't handle pressure, I murmured. Ryan, standing beside me, didn't ask what I meant. I watched them walk under the glass chandelier I'd commissioned from a blind artisan in Lisbon. Meredith had once said real legacy came from controlling beauty, not creating it. Now she posed for a photo beneath my creation, tagging it, #Monroe Legacy. I smiled. One by one they were guided to their suites, and still no one saw me, until dinner. I descended the elevator just before seating began. Wore a black jumpsuit, no name tag. Hair pulled back. Anonymous but not invisible. I passed Ava in the hallway. She glanced at me, gave a polite smile, then looked away. No recognition. My father stood at the bar, neat scotch in hand. I stopped 10 feet away, just out of view, and listened. She was always sensitive, he said to Uncle Theo. Good grades, but too soft, not built for our kind of pressure. Uncle Theo chuckled. Is she even coming? I heard she's doing something with yoga in Seattle. Let's hope not, Dad muttered. Meredith would have a stroke. I stepped back, slowly, deliberately. Upstairs, I stood by the tinted window of the executive suite and looked down at them. All of them. My family, unaware, unbothered, untouched by what I'd built. Not yet, but soon. Tomorrow night during the gala dinner, they'd ask for the owner, and I'd walk in, not as their daughter, not as their disappointment, as the architect of the air they breathed. The ballroom shimmered. Crystals caught the low amber lighting like captured stars. The walls pulsed with soft instrumental jazz that had been tuned to a tempo, proven to reduce social anxiety by 8%. The Monroe family gathered in designer gowns and tailored tuxedos, sipping wine priced to impress, but chosen for flavor, not label. They laughed, posed, compared degrees, titles, net worths. Aunt Meredith floated from table to table like a self-anointed queen, her smile pinched and rehearsed. I watched from behind a sheer curtain on the mezzanine level, flanked by Diana and Ryan. My earpiece buzzed softly with staff chatter. Everything was flawless, down to the folded menu cards, printed on seeded paper that could be planted after the event. And yet Meredith still found a problem. "It's lukewarm," she snapped, pushing her plate forward. "The risotto is supposed to be hot, not tepid." "This is unacceptable." Diana moved immediately, calm and poised. "I'm terribly sorry, Mrs. Wallace. I'll have it replaced. Don't bother, just get the manager. Or the owner, actually." Meredith huffed. "Whoever is responsible for this lapse in standards. We paid for excellence." Her voice cut through the music, silencing several nearby tables. Diana turned slightly toward me. I nodded once. I descended the staircase slowly, heels silent against polished wood. The room quieted as I crossed the floor, a ripple of curiosity, confusion. Even Chase turned from his phone. I stopped directly at Meredith's table, looked her in the eye. "Good evening," I said, voice steady. "I'm the owner of Aria Towers. I heard there was a concern." At first she didn't recognize me. Then her face froze, lips parted just slightly. Her eyes flicked to my hair, my clothes, my hands, memory working overtime. "You," she whispered. "Rachel." Around the table, heads turned. My father stiffened. My mother blinked, stunned. Ava dropped her fork. "Yes," I said. "Rachel Monroe, founder of Monroe Collective, builder of this tower, host of your family reunion." A beat of silence, then another. You could hear a wine glass tremble. I don't understand," Meredith stammered. "You own this." "I do. I built it, designed it, staffed it, even approved the seed paper menus you're holding." I turned to the room, letting the words settle. "You're not just in my hotel, you're standing in my legacy." My father stood, face unreadable. "Why didn't you tell us?" I smiled, but not cruelly. "You told me not to come, that there was no place for losers." I turned to Meredith. "You once said our family doesn't build spas, we own them. Well, now you've slept in one I built." Ryan stepped forward, silent, standing behind me like a second shadow. My staff didn't move. They didn't need to. Silence blanketed the ballroom, not shameful, not angry, just awe, and the sound of an entire bloodline recalibrating. I took a slow breath. "Then please, enjoy the rest of your evening." And I walked out. Morning arrived quieter than usual. The dining terrace, usually bustling by 9 a.m., was only half full. Sunlight streamed through the glass walls, hitting linen tablecloths, untouched by coffee cups. The Monroe family for once had run out of things to say. I stood at the espresso bar, blending in among the staff. No designer gown, no spotlight, just a sleeveless blouse, flats, and silence. Ava was the first to approach. "I owe you an apology," she said, eyes fixed on her oat milk latte. I've said some things over the years, at parties, online, things that weren't fair." I nodded. "You weren't the only one." She blinked. "You're not going to scream at me." "I don't scream," I said. "I design acoustics." She gave a dry laugh. "Figures." Then came Chase, hands in his pockets, less smug than usual. "You planned it," he said, almost impressed. "The entrance, the timing, all of it." "No," I said. "You planned it. You picked my hotel." He glanced away. "Mom's confused. She thought you were still doing yoga things. She never asked." He nodded slowly. "I guess none of us did." He left with that. No hug, no promises. Just the faintest crack in a shell built decades deep. Later, Meredith's assistant sent word that she and Theo had checked out early. "Personal emergency," the note said. I smiled to myself and sent up a parting gift anyway. A copy of the invoice marked paid in full, with a handwritten line across the bottom. "Legacy isn't inherited, it's built." Just after noon, my mother knocked. She looked smaller. Not physically, but emotionally, like she'd finally realized how much space I'd taken up in the corners of her mind, and how empty they'd been since she pushed me out. "I didn't know," she said, voice soft. "You didn't want to," I replied. She looked away, then back. "Did you ever miss us?" I hesitated. I missed being seen, not being compared. I saw you last night. No, I said gently. You saw the building. We stood there in silence. Two women raised by the same rules, both victims and enforcers of a legacy that had no room for softness. Then I offered her coffee. Because forgiveness, if it came, would take time. And time moves best over warm cups. 3 days later, I was back in Seattle. No fanfare, no press, no whispers following me through lobbies. Just rain on glass and the familiar hum of Aria Tower 2's wellness floor. I took my morning espresso on the rooftop garden where it all started. The scent of rosemary and steel, the skyline bruised with clouds. I hadn't spoken to anyone from the reunion since my mother left, until Morgan called. I saw the clip, he said. Someone filmed your entrance at the gala. It's already on TikTok. The comments are brutal and beautiful, I sighed. I didn't mean for it to go viral. You didn't. But impact doesn't ask permission. He paused. Are you satisfied? It was the question I hadn't dared ask myself. Not did I win? Not did they pay? Just, am I whole? I'm not angry, I said slowly. I thought I would be, but it's not rage I feel, it's release. Morgan hummed on the other end of the line, the way he always did when he knew I was being honest. I used to think success was proving them wrong, I admitted. Now I think it's building something so rooted in who you are, no one can take it from you. Not even family. Legacy, he said. Redefined. We sat in silence for a moment, two founders, two survivors of expectations watching the rain, mist across the edge of the rooftop glass. Then he asked, So what now? I looked down at the tower entrance, where a young couple was being greeted by staff. They weren't rich, probably spent half their savings on this weekend stay, but they were smiling. Nervous, open. They're celebrating a 5-year anniversary, I said. She likes chamomile. He's allergic to cinnamon. I made sure the dessert chef knew. Morgan chuckled. Still doing the small things, huh? Always. Because for all the gala fireworks and viral moments, what mattered more was this two people feeling seen in a place I built. And that more than applause is how a legacy holds. The envelope was cream thick and unassuming. No logo, no return address. Just my name hand-lettered in ink I recognized from childhood, thank you notes, and high society RSVPs. Meredith's handwriting. I let it sit on my desk for 3 days. When I finally opened it, I found a single card. Rachel. Perhaps I misjudged you. That's all I'll say. Meredith, no apology, no warmth. Just an acknowledgement carefully worded, devoid of humility, yet uncharacteristically brief. It was in its own way monumental. I slid it into a drawer and locked it away. Not out of spite, but because some closures don't belong in scrapbooks, they belong in archives. That afternoon, I walked through the final floor of Aria Tower 5, still under construction in Kyoto. I ran my hand across the edge of a cedar banister carved by local artisans. Lantern light cast soft circles on the pale floors. Here, everything felt quiet, not like absence, but like welcome. A small team stood at the base of the grand staircase, waiting for me. The lead designer handed me the ceremonial key. Would you like to place the plaque? Ms. Monroe, I took it in both hands, brushed steel with a single line etched in black. For those who had to build the room they were never invited into. R.M. I crouched, lined it against the stone, and pressed until it clicked into place. When I stood, no one clapped. No one had to. Later that night, I returned to my suite at Aria Kyoto. A gift box waited on the coffee table, from Morgan. Inside a fountain pen, simple, elegant, heavy. Underneath a note, you've built towers, now build peace. Sign your life in your own ink. M. I smiled, uncapped the pen, and reached for the notebook I kept near the bed. Not a ledger, not a planner, just pages of thoughts I hadn't yet spoken aloud. And on the first line of the blank page, I wrote Rachel Monroe, daughter, disappointment, designer of silence, and finally whole.